I've checked all the questions students reported in recent exams and selected the 3 most challenging topics. 1 from part 1 and 2 from part 3, the crucial part of the test we often don't pay enough attention to. In this lesson, you'll hear model answers and learn some useful vocabulary to improve your answers. It's Asia. Let's get started! First of all, let's talk about robots. Are you interested in robots? This is a very general question to open the topic. Try to answer in 2 or 3 sentences. I often get asked, what if I don't know much? What if I'm not interested in this topic? Then you could say something along these lines. I've never taken any interest in them at all, to be honest. In fact, I know next to nothing about them, except that they are used as machines in factories to carry out labor-intensive tasks. Oh, and then there is all this talk about AI, which I don't really follow either. Here, the answer shows how we can have no or little knowledge and still find something interesting to say. It's important to show the examiner right from the start some good variation in the vocabulary you use. And this answer delivers. There is good use of collocation. To take an interest in something means to want to learn more. He takes a lot of interest in cars. I wish he'd taken an interest in classical music. There is some idiomatic language. To know next to nothing about something. In other words, to know very little about it. There is also some very precise descriptive language. To carry out labor-intensive activities. To carry out is to complete a task, to carry out an investigation or a test. And labor-intensive means that it requires a lot of people to do. Something can be labor-intensive or capital-intensive, which means it requires a lot of money or capital to do. And of course, AI is artificial intelligence. Robots are AI, ChatGPT is AI. By the way, if you have access to the IELTS speaking library, you can download the updated version with all the answers and vocabulary from today's video on your student portal. If you don't have it, I'll leave the link in the description if you'd like to check it out. This is an ebook that covers over 40 challenging IELTS speaking topics with sample answers and vocabulary. Or you can download questions only for free on our Telegram channel, also linked below. The next question is, do you think robots will replace humans at work? This question requires your opinion. And examiners check if you can give a clear answer. It's also about the future. Well, robots seem to be getting smarter, but it's more like teamwork or a co-collaboration. They can handle repetitive tasks, making our jobs easier, but they can't work on their own. Humans bring organization, creativity, and critical thinking. So I don't think robots will replace us completely. Collaboration is working together with someone, in collaboration with somebody on something. The government worked in close collaboration with teachers on the new curriculum. To handle. This means to deal with tasks or a person. You can handle a crisis, a situation, or yourself. To handle yourself means to behave the right way. Repetitive tasks are tasks you repeat multiple times. And if you say a human, you mean a person rather than an animal or a machine. Robots and humans, humans and animals. Dogs can hear much better than humans. Next, critical thinking. That's a great one. Every job application requires it. This is your ability to analyze information in order to make a logical decision. Here is another one. Would you travel in a car driven by a robot? Part 1 usually ends with a question of this sort, a simple hypothetical type of question. So the answer is, no way, I'd be too scared. I've read that there has been more than one accident in these self-driving cars, if that's what you mean, because there is no robot-like figure sitting at the wheel. If they made them 100% safe, then I might give it a go. Driving is mostly a question of being personally in control, so it's a big psychological step for most of us, I suppose. This answer shows some precision using less common vocabulary. A self-driving car or autonomous driverless car is the one that has the technology to drive itself. There is also a very colloquial or informal expression here, to give it a go. It means to attempt something new, to try something adventurous. And a big step is an idiomatic expression, which means a big decision. Now, I find that we spend too much time on part 1 and not enough time on part 3, which is arguably even more important because it requires more vocabulary and more fluency from you because each answer should be longer. So, our first part 3 topic is water transport. Let's talk about water as a means of travel and transportation. What are the advantages and disadvantages of transportation by water? I think there are 2 main reasons in favor of using ships and boats for transport. The first is size. Some cargo is simply too heavy or too bulky to be transported by air, rail, or road. Crude oil and liquefied gas are obvious examples. And another would be vehicles such as, brand new cars sent from Korea to Europe. The other has to be cost. I'd imagine fuel costs must be way lower than something like air transportation. As for disadvantages, a big one is time. It's a lot slower by sea, and that restricts the types of goods that can be carried. Anything perishable won't survive the journey. So discussing advantages and disadvantages is a classic part 3 question. Here, the answer follows the pattern of first talking in favor and then pointing out drawbacks. It's not flashy. What's interesting from the vocabulary point of view is how precise meaning is expressed through certain words, such as cargo. These are the goods carried in a ship or an aircraft. To carry a cargo ship. Then we're not just saying too large, we're more precise, bulky, large and difficult to move or carry. When you're talking about oil in its natural state, you say crude oil. That's oil before it's been processed. And liquefied gas is gas turned into its liquid state. Of course, you're not expected to know terms like this, but when you do, don't hesitate to include them. And perishable are all the products like fruits, vegetables, and meats that go badly quickly. Will more people travel by water in the future? Another very common question type is to ask us to predict future changes, and this is a good example. Well, I do know that those who campaign for a more sustainable future would hope so, but I can't really see it happening in the near future for long trips, although maybe it's much too soon to say. What might happen if the global climate crisis becomes even more critical is another matter, though. On the other hand, ferries might play a greater part in shorter trips instead of flying, in parts of Asia, for example. Here we see 3 excellent examples of how to fit idiomatic expressions into your answers. if you can't imagine any future changes, you can say that you can't see it happening. In other words, you think it's very unlikely to happen. However, perhaps it's difficult to decide because we need more time or evidence, so it's much too soon to say. And there are other things to take into account. And this could change everything because it's another matter. By the way, these questions on water travel and transport follow from a perfectly innocent-looking Part 2 topic. Describe a water sport you would like to try for the first time in the future. So after talking for 2 minutes about how nice it would be to try water skiing, you're discussing water travel, and next, you'd be asked about even more challenging water as a resource, where the discussion could turn to water shortages and the dangers that brings. Now, let's change the topic and talk about some of the most challenging Part 3 questions. Part 3 set 3 questions are more abstract and speculative, and you may get them at the very end of your speaking test if you're good enough. Our set 3 heading is Society and Money. Can you guess what the Part 2 topic was? Something about a gift. Describe an expensive gift you would like to give someone and how you would save up for it. Now, let's go on to talk about society and money. Should governments spend more money on education or health? It sounds a bit complex, but all it's really asking is a point of view. How about this? I'm not sure. I've never given much thought to this, but I would suppose that more money should be spent on education because the youth of today are our future leaders, scientists, and engineers. Of course, health is also important, and countries need good medical services and facilities, but both education and health are fundamental. It's not a bad answer. It starts with an excellent collocation. To not give much thought to something. I've never given much thought to this. And the youth are all the young people as a group. But do you think it's a great answer? A band 8, maybe? Or is it more of a band 7 because it lacks a little precision? The vocabulary seems quite generic. Compare it to this one. Well, that's an interesting question, especially in these times of spending cutbacks in both areas. I believe that a measure of any decent society is how it provides for the less privileged, guaranteeing free education up to the tertiary level and healthcare for the young and the elderly. However, that comes at a price, and if a choice must be made, caring for the sick should come first, in my opinion. This answer has a bit of everything, and it shows precision. Spending cutbacks, this means reducing expenses. Decent is honest or good enough. You can say a decent person or a decent job. Less privileged are people who have less money and fewer opportunities. Tertiary education. This means any type of education after school, at university, or training courses. So we have primary education, secondary education, tertiary education, or higher education, which is at university. So tertiary education is wider than higher education because it also includes different training programs for adults. The young and the elderly, these are young and old people. The next one is interesting. A choice must be made. So that's the passive voice. To distance yourself from the choice because you don't want to make it, a choice must be made, or mistakes have been made. Who made them? There is also an idiomatic expression, to come first. caring for the sick should come first. As we've mentioned, the question type itself is fundamental. And this is one of many that's asking to take a position. Sometimes the examiner will make this a "do you agree" question. Spending on education is more important than spending on health. Do you agree? If you get this question, you can agree or disagree. It's entirely up to you. The next question is, won't that have a negative impact on educational opportunities? Question 2 is a follow-up question, which is a comment on what the test taker has just said. It's a "but what about the other aspect" type of question. And the answer is, yes, of course it would, and that's already happening. Families are having to put money aside for their children's education, especially higher education, and not everyone can afford to do that. What it means is that a lot of potential is being wasted, and at the same time, it's making the gap between the rich and the poor even wider. The answer shows good use of collocations. To put money aside for something. This means to save for something. In our case, higher education. To afford is to be able to pay for something. To waste potential. Not to get the best out of somebody because, for example, they have no training to do a job they could do. The grammar is cool here. A lot of potential is being wasted. That's the present continuous passive. Someone is wasting potential. Potential is being wasted. The gap between the rich and the poor. This is a great phrase that you can see in both IELTS writing and speaking. So, did you find these sample answers and vocabulary useful? If yes, we have similar materials for over 40 IELTS speaking topics in the IELTS speaking library linked in the description. You can also download just the topics and questions for free on our Telegram channel. Again, linked below, or just open your Telegram, search for Fast Track IELTS, and the guide is pinned at the very top. And if you've noticed that giving those long developed answers in part 3 is not an easy thing, then watch this video and you'll master 4 ways to give beautiful extended answers. And thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!